The world has gone global, but in this cyberspace, there's a lot that must be taken stock of on the national level, corporate level, individual level. Now, we see a lot of crime on the cyber end of things. And, it creates an interesting picture. That's part of why we're having this conversation today with our guests on that all-important event coming up soon. But I'll leave them to do the talking. They're here to share with us. Our guest this morning, Dr. Collins Yeboah-Afari is Director General, Kofi Annan International or ICT Center. There's also Anat Lewin, Global Lead for Cybersecurity at the World Bank. Doc, Anat, a very good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
So there's this interesting, term, GC3B. We've been seeing it, we've been talking about it this morning, but I guess it would only be fitting for our viewers to explain to them what GC3B is all about. What is it? I'll start with you, Doc. And feel free, both of you can get a piece of the pie. I'll start with you.
So the GC3B, it's just an abbreviation, right? What the G is global, right? Then they have 3 C's, which is Conference on Cybersecurity.
Okay.
Cyber capacity, and then B is a building. So it's capacity building conference on globally. So that's what GC3B is. What it is scheduled for 29th to the 30th, tomorrow and the day after. And it was going to help, foster growth in cyber resiliency capacity building in support of this global cyberspace that we are all in now, as you said earlier. So I'll let my colleague here.
Anat?
First of all, thanks very much for having me on this program.
Thanks for coming.
It's important for all countries in the world to form part of the strength chain on cybersecurity. Cyber criminals are interested in attacking wherever there are resources. And resources are typically anywhere in the financial sector, in the telecom sector, and health sector. So we see attacks in high-income countries, but we also really see an increase of attacks in developing economies and in the global south. So we need to make sure that there is capacity building of everybody so that everybody can form a part of the strength chain on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a team sport, and everybody needs to play their role. So this conference is really about helping everybody raise their capacity on cybersecurity so everybody can withstand the incidents, prepare for future attacks, mitigate risk, and respond.
And that's interesting. You bring me to another point, and you also remind me of what is said, that you're as strong as your weakest link. So if any of the linkages are weak, let's take sub-Saharan Africa, for example, looking at cybersecurity here. Some countries have tried to catch up in recent years, the Ghanas, the Kenyas, the Rwandas, among others, Egypt on the other side. But still a lot more remains to be done. And once we leave others behind, it is a threat to the rest of us. But he spoke of capacity building. Let me hold you briefly on that. What do you mean when you talk about capacity building in the cybersecurity space, especially in this context, in our setting, in the developed world?
Yes, so capacity building is more than just training. Some people tend to think of capacity building just as formal training. And of course, Dr. Afari knows a lot about that because he heads the Training Institute here in Ghana. But capacity building is so much more. It really is about helping countries to do proper incident response and helping countries to do proper risk mitigation. And so it is about having a good cybercrime and cybersecurity legislative framework in place. It's about having a cybersecurity national policy, strategy, and an action plan. It's about getting all of the technical and operational systems in place, doing penetration tests, doing simulation exercises, having national cybersecurity weeks, etc., and then also creating a training framework so that each country can produce the cybersecurity analysts and staff that it needs in order to staff all of these roles, both in the public sector and the private sector. And as you said, there is a great disparity, even in sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah. There are some countries that are moving ahead, like Ghana, and then there are other countries where there's really very little.
Barely catching up.
Yeah.
Very little. And so we are here as the World Bank to help all of these countries. We're here to help those countries that are forming the lead and going ahead to strengthen their cybersecurity, but we're also here to help others form their established nascent phase of cybersecurity.
And Doc, that also brings me to the point, at least we have made some developments, some leaps already. We have the Cybersecurity Authority.
We do.
Regardless of the bottlenecks we face every now and then with Momo fraud and everything in between, and how we are not able to trace certain things. But why essentially would you say this conference is being organized? On the back of what Anat has mentioned, why is it crucial that we have a conference of this nature?
Right, thank you. So, I mean, like you said earlier, the CSA, which, you know, the authority that has been created, it is responsible for guiding and protecting all of us in this cyberspace. But why this event is to raise the necessary awareness as we enter into the space where now we have, like you mentioned earlier, Momo fraud and other things. This is just on the
surface.
Yeah, like Anat said, it's a bigger picture that we all have to play in, which, whether you like it or not, you have to play in anyway. So it's good to raise the awareness so that individuals and organizations and even nations would feel the need to also protect their citizens and themselves as part of their national security profile or posture that they're trying to develop. So it's raising awareness and then, trying to solve a common goal that we all see, problem that we all see, find a solution to that common problem that we all see in the world now. So more awareness creation and other capacity building initiatives that are going up.
Part of what we're talking about reminds me of my own program that I read, and online privacy and data protection, and how that has come to the fore in our world nowadays. But even as we speak about all of this, the why has partly been answered. But then I would come to, I don't know whether to go back to you, Doc, but maybe to you as well.
Okay.
Why Accra, Ghana? This is the first time you're doing this in the developing world, so to speak. What went into the choice of Accra to host this event, this maiden event, as far as the developing world is concerned, or sub-Saharan Africa is concerned?
This conference is organized by a number of organizing bodies. The World Bank forms one of them, the Global Forum for Cyber Expertise is another, World Economic Forum and the Cyber Peace Foundation are all co-organizing partners. But it was very important for us to make sure that this conference take place in the Global South. This is not meant to be another conference in the Western world, in the Northern world. So we're very happy that the conference is taking place in Accra. We have made sure that the participants are really very well balanced. And I think we have about 50% participants from the Global South. Incidentally, we have, from the over 600 people who've registered, about 40% participation from women, which is also really important. Cybersecurity is a field where we'd really like to encourage women to step into it. There are not enough cybersecurity specialists and analysts in this world. There's a really great global labor shortage. And there are about 4 million jobs in cybersecurity globally that are empty. And we want to make sure that women feel encouraged and nurtured to enter the cybersecurity professional field. So we're very happy that also we have 40% women registrants at the conference. It is very important to have it take place in Africa. I know we have a lot of African delegates coming, so we want to make sure that the conversation focuses on the developing world.
That's an interesting point to make, but I'm curious. I'd like to find out. The World Bank itself, how has it helped developing countries like Ghana in its fight in the past, currently, and beyond this conference, basically? How is the World Bank going to help countries like Ghana in the fight against, cybercrime, cyber threats, and all of that? How do you foresee that will happen?
Thank you for that question. We have been active in over 60 countries and have invested over $250 million in cybersecurity over the last few years. What that means is the World Bank has a number of different avenues for helping countries. And in a second, I'll get to specifically the work that's taking place in Ghana. We provide knowledge products, so we do research on cybersecurity. Some of the research that we're working on right now is to establish the economic rationale for investing in cybersecurity. Some of the other work that we're doing is looking at how can we assess the sectoral maturity of cybersecurity in different sectors and governments. So We've just published a number of practitioner notes. One of them is on skills development, actually. It's a practitioner note that focuses on what are the different ways in which skills development in cybersecurity can be improved. And incidentally, in honor of this conference, we've just published a results story on Ghana. So if anybody is interested in seeing that, it's on the World Bank website at worldbank.org.
What does it say? Give us a briefing. Now that you're here, what does it say? What's the picture when you look at Ghana?
What it says is that there has been, over multiple years, a process of strengthening cybersecurity. And it starts with legislation, and it starts with capacity building of the types that I've mentioned earlier. And that Ghana is now one of the regional leads on cybersecurity. Of course, there are always hiccups along the way. So there's no such thing as a perfect path. But Ghana has really shown that it can establish a standalone cybersecurity agency, the Cybersecurity Authority here in Ghana, and it can move from having no staff to having over 100 staff, and really a very well-developed agency to respond to incidents and to mitigate risks. And so there are a number of different steps that Ghana has taken over the years to establish its place in cybersecurity the way it has right now. It has really moved up in the rankings of the ITU. It used to be quite low in the rankings of the ITU's Global Cybersecurity Index, and now it is in one of the leading positions, certainly for Africa. So
I think even looking at the global, maybe the who's who, I realized one of my former lecturers, Dr. Osaibunsu Dixon, was in there either as, I think, the #1 across the world. So I think strides, quite a number of strides. You know him, right?
Yes,
quite a number of strides have been made on the individual level,
right,
at the capacity, institutional level, and
governance level,
beyond.
yes.
But are we going quickly enough?
Let me just say that the World Bank has been supporting Ghana over the course of several projects. So over the last 10 years or so, there have been a number of successive investments that have been made in Ghana. Also on digital development writ large, and on transforming electronic services in government. So as part of that, there's been, over the last 10 years, continued support on cybersecurity. With cybersecurity, there's never perfection.
True.
We will always be attacked. There is no way to say, look at all of the things that we're doing, now we're not going to be attacked. You're either before an attack, during an attack, or after an attack. And the point is that you have to be as prepared as possible, and you have to be able to very resiliently respond to an attack. So when you ask me, are we moving fast enough? The question is really, how prepared can you be? And how quickly can you respond to an attack? Because you're not really able to 100% protect yourself.
It actually reminds me, I would have to paraphrase, I think he's a former head of the FBI or something of the sort. He has a famous quote that says, there are two types of companies, and maybe even state entities. Those that have been hacked, and those that will be hacked. It is always what
waiting to be
gets me. At some point, when you become attractive enough, they'll come for you. And the question is, how ready will you be when they do come? But in terms of, Doc, in terms of what we hope to achieve with this entire setup, what would you say? At the end of this, it's not just going to be a fanfare and having all the bigwigs like Anat showing up and the World Bank supporting. In the end, there must be deliverables.
Right.
What are we hoping to achieve at the end of all of this?
So coming back to the reason why Accra was chosen, right? Or Accra became Accra is a fast-growing city, as you know, and cybersecurity itself, for us as a government, is a major pillar in the digital economy policy that we are building. So I think with all that and our ministers, honorable ministers' support, I think that probably got us the nod. But in terms of what will be following this conference, there will be a call, an Accra call, right? And after that, I think whatever issues that come up, developed through the call, through the conference, will be monitored as per, or every other year or so, there will be a revision of it or the monitoring of it. So after this call, yes, after this
monitoring.
Accra, you'll be monitoring, and that I think happens every other year.
So every 2 years.
Yes.
And now that we've spoken about what the deliverables are, who are some of those who have been invited to participate in this conference? Usually, when it comes to cybersecurity, I know it's high-powered people from all over the world. At least I've been in some of them, and maybe to answer the question as well about who can participate. Is it open? Is it closed? Is it a hybrid event? Tell us a bit more about that.
First of all, I see you're very interested in cybersecurity. So I hope you'll find time to come, and you're most welcome and invited to join us.
Thank you.
We have, the thing that I'm most proud of is that we're bringing, at least from the World Bank side, over 50 cybersecurity officials from...
50?
We are bringing, others are coming, aside from World Bank direct support.
Right.
Cybersecurity officials from developing countries are coming just on our tab. And of course, there are lots of representatives from big firms and the International Telecommunications Union, the World Economic Forum. There is the Cybersecurity Policy Director of MasterCard. So there's a number of, lots of, as you said, senior people in cybersecurity are here this week. So it's a great time for great conversations and meeting of the minds. But what's most important is that we're bringing the heads of the national cybersecurity agencies in developing countries. And we're bringing the people who are at the technical level working on cybersecurity in developing countries. And we can make those connections. For instance, I know that there's lots of really good people here at the CSA, and I'm very excited to be introducing them to the technical cybersecurity people from Rwanda or from Nigeria, so that they can create a community of practice amongst themselves. So we have the top shots, but we also have the working level people who are the technical experts, and we're looking forward to making those connections on a peer-to-peer level.
Right. Let me come back to you, Doc. So how are we as a country? I mean, you're one of the arrowheads. How are we going to leverage this entire setup to ensure that we're building our capacity, we're building resilience, we're becoming better equipped to face the cyber challenges of the century we find ourselves in?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So as a country and as a government, I think the writing is on the wall for us, right? We see this, we hear this every day from everywhere. And the CSA Act has really done marvelously so far, which is now being executed as part of the government digital economy policy that's been developed. So as the main pillar, like I said earlier, is the cybersecurity resilience or cybersecurity posture that we think that we need to develop. So for us, we are using capacity building just as one of the legs in that, and also all the other frameworks that the CSA has put forward based on international standards to help leverage this conference and every other thing that we get out of this to make our security posture, as you will, if you will, better than, and even developing as far as we can get.
I'll come back to you. So looking at the role of our financial sector, I spoke of Momo fraud among others. Mm-hmm. Usually you would find that the cyber threats, at least those that hit individuals, now there's this thing going on where people post the clone information of other people or other entities. For example, eateries, that's the most common one. A fallen victim, I lost just a few CDs. Oh. It was just a momentary lapse. I realized at a point that something fishy, but I had just done it. But people have lost huge sums of money. Typical example, it's his birthday. He orders quite a bit of pizza for his office, over 1,000 CDs, only to get there and find out he had actually ordered, but ordered to the wrong person, a scammer. All of this is going on. So how are you targeting the financial institutions, including the telcos, because now they are offering mobile money and all of that? How are you targeting them in all of this? Yeah,
so the CSA, it's as part of the JCC and the other security apparatus that the government has built, Bank of Ghana, the telcos, they are all major stakeholders in every conversation that goes on in the space. So in terms of individual activities that the CSA is undertaking, I'm sure everything they do as part of their mandate is to involve the stakeholders, including the BOG, including the telcos, as part of their solutioning. So every problem that they try to solve, they don't just do in isolation. They try to use use appropriate stakeholders in that regard. So what you just mentioned is the operational level of what CSA would daily be doing. I'm sure they take the calls and they come in and they process all these calls and they come up with a strategy to mitigate. So in terms of the details of what would have happened in this particular instance, I would not be able to share, but I'm sure my colleagues at the CSA will be able to give you some more details on that. But I can assure you that it's being worked on.
I just recall now that it's been a while since I've heard anything to do with SIM-box fraud. I'm hoping that means, we're clamping down more and more on those. But to cap off the conversation, I'd like to find out, and I can share this among you, what can we look forward to? Yes, this installment is coming up soon. Next edition, what are the plans? I'm sure by now we're already planning ahead of time. I was going to ask you that oftentimes when we have such conversations, we don't see a lot of Europeans or those from the other side. But in this instance, you did mention that over 50 of you are coming from the World Bank. Hopefully there will be enough representation. And again, on the bit about support, just as with, let me digress a bit, climate change, sometimes promises are made, we'll give this and that. Mm-hmm. We all know those billions have not come and that Africa is getting the brunt of it. So the commitments, how will they look like moving forward? I think we can address those two ends and wrap the conversation. Next edition, both of you can address those and give us your final words.
Thanks. So first of all, let me clarify. It might seem like there are 50 of us from the World Bank here, but it's not quite that many. We did come with a very strong team, but we're bringing with us heads of cybersecurity agencies and technical people from 50 developing countries that are being supported by us. So, but I think the conference is pretty much 50-50, developing countries and high-income countries. So we do see that balance there. What's next? There are more and more challenges when it comes to cybersecurity in the future. We have the advent of artificial intelligence now. Just recently, I was at a conference at the World Economic Forum, and one of the experts there spoke about an artificial intelligence attack where somebody made a transfer of $2 million based on a video call that they had with their client, and they presumed that video call to be authentic, but of course it was a deep fake of the client's voice and a deep fake of the client's body and face. And because they put confidence in that video call, they transferred $2 million to a cyber criminal. So there are different kinds of challenges ahead of us, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. So we can't sleep on this. We need to evolve together with the cyber criminals. The barrier of entry to cybercrime has been made lower by artificial intelligence. So we need to speed up on our side as well. What the World Bank is doing is we continue to support developing countries in cybersecurity. We're continuing to do the analyses that are needed, and then we're implementing, we're using those analyses as the underpinnings for the types of lending that we provide to developing countries. Right. So that continues to be the case for us throughout the world, and we stand ready to help governments in developing countries to improve their cybersecurity posture and become more resilient.
Speaking of deepfake and AI, we have suffered the brunt of it here. My image, those of other presenters here, have been used for fake medicinal products, which we've had to issue disclaimers about. So we're fully aware of that. A long time ago, I saw one with former American President Barack Obama, but now it's advanced. They are cloning voices better. They are capturing images better, and it's just terrible. But the fight continues. Finally, it's happening tomorrow, the day after, 29th and 30th. What's the venue? What are the times to take stock of? Can people come and participate? Is it by registration?
Yes.
Can they follow online?
Yeah, it's a closed event, I'm told, and so we're hosting over 800 participants from across the globe. And
are some of them online?
Yes.
Virtually?
So
and you have cyber and there's no
we broadcast online and live on I believe your station NNG TV. So it will be a 2-day packed event that we are happy to host. In terms of what we get out of it is, we hope that whatever framework or decisions that are made out of this conference and the Accra call will be held on and hopefully help develop and even get some more engagement out of it in terms of cyber capacity building and sponsorship and other things that our friends from World Bank would like to do with us. So we're happy to be here and happy to host the world here in Accra tomorrow and the next.
Well, the world comes to Accra, and we're glad to host all of you from the World Bank and beyond in this very important event that will be held here tomorrow and the day after. But thank you so much for joining the conversation, Dr. Collins Yeboah-Afari, Director General, Kofi Annan ICT center, there's also Anas Lewin, Global Lead for Cybersecurity at the World Bank. I got some glowing praise for you from a colleague in the media who thinks you are all that in cybersecurity.
Thank
yes,
you.
and we agree. So thank you so much for coming and being a part of this. So that's this leg of the conversation. Up next, after the break, we'll be hosting the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. They've got quite a number of challenges, myriad, hydra-headed challenges. They're going to be right here in the studio with us and talking about those challenges. So guess what? We can address them. We'll be back after the break.